cut the cloth, you need to tape it up, because if you don't tape it up and cut it, it will just split open and then you will destroy the whole weave. So, and when you measure the pieces that you need, always cut a little bit bigger, because you only get one chance. So you want it to fit the part you are going to be installing it on or adding it onto. So I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but there's two methods of getting the carbon fiber cloth to stick to the part that you're doing. One is a spray glue that you just spray on, and in an instant you can lay down the cloth. I've done it a couple of times, and the times that I've done it, the result has got messed up. It's like the glue underneath doesn't harden or cure fast enough. So when you're laying the epoxy on top of it, it's like it's a chemical reaction underneath. So it got all bubbly and all these white spots everywhere. So this is the best way to do it, in my opinion. This is the times I've done it, and when it has came out with good result, I've done it this way. So put on some epoxy, wait like 3 to 4 hours, then you do this test, you touch it, and it should be sticky, but not so it gets stuck to the glove. Now it's a little bit too sticky, but I think we can manage to do it anyway. So the important thing here is you have one shot to lay down the carbon fiber cloth. You cannot move it or adjust it. The way you lay it down, that's the way it's going to be. So the plan here is to roll it out step by step and just take it easy and try to get it right. It's pretty easy to get it to follow like curvature and stuff like that. So I think the part where the exhaust sits, I think it's going to be okay. If there will be any damages or anything, there's no big deal if the carbon fiber goes into the exhaust outlet like part. You can just cut it and sand it down at the edge, so the edge could be just matte black or something. So the important part is this, that's going to be visual at all times. This part right here, not so much, but we will try to get it 100% perfect anyway, so let's do this.
Yeah, we are in the place to be.
Now we got it pretty good overall. So you can see it got a little fucked up here, but this is nothing that's going to be seen. So now it's try to get this part here, so we have to cut a little bit and see what we could do about it. Maybe just some of the carbon fiber will be going over the edge, so I don't think we are going to go for full coverage up in here. So the first layer of epoxy is down. Now we're just gonna let it cure for a couple of hours so it's really sticky. Then we're gonna add the second coat, and the second coat we're gonna let it harden or let it fully cure so it gets hard, because between the coats after like the first two, then you need to sand it down just a little bit every time. So the surface in the end should be completely flat before you lay down the clear coat, else you will get a messed up result. And now the weave is like the epoxy is like sinking into the weave or the cloth and connects with the epoxy layer that's underneath, so it creates a really strong bond to the bumper, I think. And here you can see it looks a little messed up, but when you cover it with a couple of layers of epoxy and then sand it down, you won't be able to notice it very much. So overnight and it's fully cured. So now we need to cut where the line is, and the hard part here is to know where the actual line is, so you have to go by a little feeling and cut a little bit at a time so you don't cut into the diffuser. So now we're just gonna lay some more epoxy on it and a little bit outside here so it fills out the edge. Then it's going to be sanded down so it's just flat. Then before painting the actual bumper, I'm gonna mask off so you get a really nice straight line here. That's masking off this, and then we're gonna to remove the masking here and just put clear coat on everything so it just gets in one motion and it's gonna look really nice together. Here are the results after 3 layers almost, and the last 2 layers I went really heavy, so as you can see it has built up a nice layer in the middle. So now we have to focus on the sides, and it's just a thin coverage on the sides, so we're gonna sand this down very gently because you don't want to sand through the epoxy so you destroy the weave. So really carefully just sand down so that the new layer of epoxy can get a really good bond to the weave. So I'm not going to focus too much on this side here. There's a nice layer so you don't have to mess with this because it won't be noticeable later, because you're only going to look from it from this side. So let's start sanding it down. So this is the result after the first wet sanding. As you can see, we got some high spots and some low spots, and the goal here is to get it all even. So when we has the right result, all this just gonna look like this sanded color. This dark color is the low spots that where the epoxy has been settling into the cloth. So all this needs to get even, otherwise you could spray clear coat on this and from a distance it will look quite okay, but if you come up close or get the right angle, you will see it's just all this bumpy surface. So, and one thing more, as we have applied a couple of coats of epoxy to this, you cannot sand down everything to just get it smooth in one take. You need to sand it down like this. I have used 120 and 240 wet sandpaper. So now we're going to lay down one more layer of epoxy, and then it's wet sanding again, and then it's on and on until you get the final result. after the second time wet sanding everything, and now the surface is like pretty smooth and pretty even. We still have some of these high and low spots, but you don't want to go too hard on the sanding. So now we're going to add another layer of epoxy, then a layer of epoxy. So the third wet sanding is done, and it could be a little better because you could still see some small ups and downs, mostly downs, but the clear coat will add some thickness also, so this won't be as noticeable when it's all done. So the next video I will be masking off everything that's not going to be painted with the base coat and the primer, like the carbon fiber diffuser and all these parts right here. So I'm going to cover these up, clean everything off, and then we will be ready for some paint. And I am super hyped to get some paint on so we can see the final result of all this work and finally mount it on the car. That would be the ultimate goal. So stay tuned to the channel, subscribe, like, comment, and I will see you very soon again. Bye!